Hello all! It is a charming 79 degrees in this room, which wouldn't be so bad if you weren't moving and you dealt with the heat well. I, however, don't deal with the heat well at all, but I do happen to do a lot of not moving. It also wouldn't be the worst thing if this weren't the coolest room in this house. There's someone behind me. Who are you? Simon! The hottest room in this house, it is a chipper 113 degrees Fahrenheit, which I wouldn't recommend sticking around in there for long, but for serious, I should charge admission to that thing, because it's like a sauna. And the second hottest room in this house is my room, which is located above my head. It is somewhere between 98 and 100 degrees. And as you trudge up these stairs, you realize it's only gonna get worse. And then you pass the doorway's threshold, and it just hits you like nausea. And you're suddenly breathing oatmeal up there, and it's disgusting. I can't sleep up there, so I've been sleeping on this fold-out couch. What in the world? But since I've been sleeping down here, I've been having a lot of lucid dreams. For as far back as I can recall, I've had the ability to lucid dream more often than not. This simply means that I'm aware when I'm dreaming, thus reaching a state of lucidity. It is important to note that there are different levels of lucidity. These range from grasping that one is asleep, but not being fully aware that they are in control of their dream, to knowing full well that one is asleep and that the elements of their dream are at their disposal, in which case they have the power to influence the events of the dream consciously. I think lucid dreaming is a riveting concept because literally the dreamer's just like swimming around in their subconscious, enjoying the random yet sometimes significant synapses that crawl across their brain, and then suddenly, I didn't say that like I was enthused, but suddenly they become conscious in their subconscious. The paradoxical nature of lucid dreaming defines it to be a gray area that even modern psychology struggles to explain. A recent dream wherein I experienced lucidity I dreamt a couple of nights ago. I found myself in an inhospitably cold cell, which was it was welcoming compared to this environment. The walls were built of smooth stone, the floor was freezing, flooded, and uneven. And down the hall I could hear this reverberating dripping sound of, well, I guess I don't know of what. It could have been blood. It could have been blood. The interior was so musty smelling and bleak that it felt as though the Trader's Gate was seriously near. The man occupying the cell next to me had been facing the corner, hunched over, clenching a record player that was droning some loud, awful music. It sounded like Mudvayne or Disturbed or I don't know. His head was closely shaven, and somehow I knew his name was Falcon. And as I perched on my cot, I felt this building vehement urge to break out of prison, churning like a powerful gyre, as W.B. Yeats might describe it. An inkling began to grow in my mind. Why was I even in jail? I couldn't recall committing any crimes worthy of arrest. And that's when it dawned on me. I was dreaming! Good job, Alexis. Super great work on that thing you did. Real nice. Goodbye, Falcon! I announced as I turned to make my way to escape. He turned and groused something indiscernible, and I noticed he had a labret piercing. I rattled my cell door. It anomalously wasn't even locked. Good job, prison, in my mind. You guys need to keep tighter security. Or maybe I was like Socrates in my dream and they decided my punishment was too harsh and they were just gonna like let me escape or something, sneak out the back. You're not even Socrates in your dreams, Alexis, so shut your mouth. There was no security beyond this point, and I, just easily made my way through out the back onto a Chicago street, which I don't know how accurate the depiction of Chicago was in my dream because I've only been to the Chicago airport a few times. On the other side of the road, there was a truck pulling a trailer, and on this trailer was a giant bear. And this was no ordinary bear. It was like a Care Bear, but it was made out of a gummy substance, so like a cross between a Care Bear and a gummy bear. And this gummy Care Bear jumped off the trailer onto the road, started wobbling over to me, ominously. Then it ripped its arms from its sides, because you know how gummy bears' arms are stuck to their side, and they were just dripping with all this goo. It wobbled over to me. It opened its mouth to say something, and it had teeth. And it said, "I'm gonna hug you." I was like, no! no sir, I don't want a hug. It happened. Anyway, it just enveloped me. I was just fighting it the whole time. And then before I knew it, the hug was over and the bear went on its way. Then I was like, okay, I'm going on with this dream. That was very strange and I didn't enjoy that at all. So there I was on a freezing Chicago street. Guess what's gonna happen next? The snow was falling heavily and the streetlights were just hanging around lackadaisically, and I noticed there was this crowd outside of Lincoln Hall, which also I've never been there, but there it was. So I pressed my way through chattering teeth and up to the front of the line and wandered in because I was lucid dreaming and I was like, let's go exploring. Let's go exploring. And when I got in there, I discovered Margot and the Nuclear So-and-Sos were setting up. I knew it wasn't the real band because I knew I was dreaming, but because I knew I was dreaming, I had the courage to go up to them and be like, hi, that thing you do it well, and I like the stuff you make, and like, I like you. Because if this was just a regular dream, I would have avoided them. I would have been like, they're untouchable. Not like the caste system untouchable. They're like amazing, and I can't touch them because I'm lame. And that's how it is in real life. And they let me play tambourine during their set, and it was incredible, and it would have never happened in waking life or real life, whatever, which one you want to call it. Conspiracy. Because of being imprisoned at the beginning of what turned out to be a fantastic dream, I was able to achieve lucidity through an inkling, a suspicion that the events of the dream were unrealistic. Usually I am capable of achieving lucidity by other means. I have a few methods of going about this. Looking at a clock proves helpful because they're hardly ever harmonized with the amount of sunlight outside. Also, trying to read a book in a dream is oddly difficult. I'll look at the text, rehearse what it says, look away and look back, and it hardly ever says the same thing. But that being so illogical, you know, you can just assume you're dreaming at that point. Looking at a mirror can shock me into lucidity, but looking at a mirror in a dream can sometimes happen to be terrifying because the manifestation in the mirror can be grotesque and nightmarish. I've been manipulating these techniques for several years now. In my early years of lucid dreaming, I wasn't aware this was anything out of the ordinary until I had significantly honed my skill. I was finally clued in about the rareness of this ability at a 5th grade sleepover, because at 5th grade sleepovers late at night you start talking about all these dreams you've had with your friends and stuff, and it's super boring. One of them being the young pseudoscientist of the group pulled out a dream interpretation dictionary. I'm not into Freudian psychology. There's lots of different interpretations about what dreams may mean, if they mean anything at all, if they may mean something at all, and what they're for, or why we have them. And that's not what this video is about, so I'm just gonna gloss over that. Moving on. Soon one of the girls brought to the attention of everyone else lucid dreaming, although we didn't know the actual term for it. Someone would say, oh yeah, like when you know you're dreaming, then you'd hear someone excitedly claim, I had one of those once! Then from across the cluster you'd hear someone kick up a stink and complain because they tried so hard to have one and they just plainly were unable to. I was bewildered by the thought that I was alone in experiencing this phenomenon on a regular basis. Later in high school and community college I took psychology classes and I became more familiar with other methods people use. I have my own theory about why I think I may be able to achieve lucidity so easily. I think it's just because I am a combination of self-conscious and self-aware, so much so that it just sort of transfers into when I'm dreaming and I realize I'm asleep. Once I achieve lucidity, some of my favorite things to do are levitating, really anything that defies physics, destroying drum sets. Number one, by far, favorite thing to do while lucid dreaming is wandering into people's houses and appreciating their interior decorating. Because it's just, you can't do that in life. You absolutely cannot do that in real life. You can't wander into someone's house and be like, I like your wallpaper, can I play with your cat? I also enjoy eating ridiculous amounts of spaghetti, frolicking in the wild, going to Chili's and finding that the Office's Dundee Awards are commencing, and what? Michael Scott awards me with a Dundee? I also like to put one hand in my pocket and wave the other at Alanis Morissette. And one of the best things I ever did while I was lucid dreaming was I orchestrated the largest Macarena dance and just laughed at how absurd people look when performing that mid-90s dance routine. It was great. Great moment. Anything that is improbable in real life is possible in a lucid dream. Lucid dreaming makes me a whole lot less upset that as a human I spend 1/3 of my life asleep. If I suddenly became unable to do this, I would be incredibly grievous over that fact.